Hi, I'm Michelle Manu. I'm here at the Martial Arts History Museum.
Where were you born?
I was born in Chicago. Yeah. My father met my mother in Chicago, married there, had me, and then we moved to the Big Island shortly after I was born.
Your mother is Scandinavian?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and your father was?
Already? Hawaiian, Filipino, Chinese, English.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
got it. What was it like growing up in Hawaii?
Well, I only lived there up until about 1 year old, and then
Okay.
we moved to Southern California, which I spent most of my life up until I was just turned 15, and then we moved to Chicago.
So, born in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
moved to Hawaii for
Correct.
a year, Southern California, back to Chicago.
Yes, and then back home here to Southern California. I think, in the 70s, it was interesting to be of different races, ethnicities, I should say. And so you're going to run into some issues no matter what. But I enjoyed it more so than living probably anywhere else. I felt there was a little bit more of a freedom in Southern California, possibly all of California, but being able to be mixed and not be put in a category. Not to say we didn't have our issues as this white, blonde, 5'10" Scandinavian woman with this really dark, black-eyed, guy. And then these, 5 kids that all came out looking so differently. So I'm grateful to have been raised on the mainland, in specifically Southern California. I've been able to have the best education and the best job opportunities, and there's a lot going on here. So I get to do a lot all the time and promote what I promote now, but growing up gave a lot of opportunities to grow sports and academia, and so I'm grateful for that.
Did you begin learning hula first or martial arts first?
Hula.
Hula first.
Mm-hmm. I started with a halau when I was 11 after I got injured and was pushed off team for gymnastics. And that was in Anaheim. Yeah, Auntie Rosalie is, from what I understand, Kumu.
When you said that you were learning the more ancient style of hula, were you taught the martial applications at that time?
Not at all. Didn't even know they were contained within.
Your first martial arts was Kempo, correct?
Correct. Well, it was interesting times because it was very much considered a boys' activity or a guy's thing, and there weren't very many females that were studying, and so there was a 2-for-1 special, a little bit away from the house. But my mom decided that for me and my sister, we should probably go and try it. There were always some stories about my dad being a fighter, and I think she just thought he would accept that. My mom was always trying to please my dad. But he didn't actually find that to be very pleasing, which of course gave me more pleasure in trying to do better in that. But we showed up, and the gi comes out of the bag, and then they wrapped the belt, and then we got on the floor, and the whole time I was not really feeling it. I already had strong opinions at the age of 9. I already knew I wanted to be the president of the United States. I wanted to have a Porsche, and I wanted my black belt. So I already knew I wanted these things at 9 years old. So I get on the floor, and I'm like, well, if just try it. And I think it was within the first 10 minutes, some oddities. They're speaking in a different language, and everyone's lining up, and so I'm like the last one to kind of catch up. And I just realized, that I don't know what happened. That was a life-changing day for me. That I realized this is not for boys. This is actually for me. And I felt comfortable in that gi, and I loved the movements. They just seemed to come naturally. So after Kempo, did hula a little bit more in Anaheim, and I never made it off the ground. She was a very strict kumu, so I saw, 11 to 14 is when we did that. And it was my sister and I again, the two oldest out of 5. And I was on the floor. I could never get off the floor. So we're using the ili-ilis, the rock, the lava rocks, and the ipu, the gourd, and, the uli-ulis, the feather gourds. But I never, so it was all the upper half of the body is the woman. So it was always the woman and the kids that were moving. But I got to see these 17 and 21-year-olds, the big girls, the girls you want to be when you're 11. They're standing and they're moving. And I just thought, wow, that I want to get off the ground. So my parents were divorcing again, each other, for the 4th time. And that never really happened the 4th time before he passed, but turbulent is all I can say. So moved us to Chicago. I was class president. I was, in the competition cheerleading squad. I was French club president. I did everything that I could to keep myself busy when I was younger. And so when we moved, I just turned 15, and, removed from that, all of these things I've worked towards all of these years, to a totally different world, Chicago, the Midwest. It was ironic. I seemed to find I made friends with, I call them now my Hanai family. If you don't know what that means, it's an adopted family. It wasn't too long after that I moved there, I left the family home. And while going to school, high school, I had 3 jobs. I forged my work permit. And somehow it was like the second day of high school, which I hated so much, coming from a place that I loved. I had straight A's, I was an honor student, and blah, 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 to a place where education wasn't really all that important or focused on. They have real seasons there that changes the psyche of individuals that live there. So being part of school wasn't necessarily popular. And so I ran into a Samoan Italian family, and it wasn't too long after where we became family, and they allowed me to move in with them, and I started dancing, and I started touring with them and filled in for 2 other groups. So I got to dance all over for all sorts of associations, museums, parties, on the boats on Lake Michigan, at art institutes. Just the most fabulous places to the most dirtiest places. Luckily, only once I lost my skirt. Nonetheless, it was a full house at the O'Hare Marriott Kona Kai room. So yeah, everyone that night got flashed more than they needed to see, but I learned from it. I secured my skirt better the next time, and a parable for life, learn as we go. So, I think being a competition cheerleader, I always wanted to be on the field, and I knew that. And one day I woke up and it was, there's just some things that knowingness, like I want to play football. So I got online and I looked, and I noticed there was a team in Santa Monica, and there was a team in Long Beach, and of course San Diego. And I just thought, Long Beach is the closest. So I called. They already had tryouts. They said, come, we'll make an exception. If you're athletic, come and try out. So I went out. It was rainy that night, and I tried out after practice, and I made the team. And I wasn't starting that year, but I had a lot to learn. But I made the team. And so we played in Hawaii. We played all over the nation. At this time, it was starting to get some recognition from, Nike. And so I think the owner in the IWFL, they wanted to have better access to coaches. And so being at the same time as football season, we had less access. So they switched it. So I played a full year of football my first year. And so we went fall straight into spring. And I really enjoyed myself. First season, I was a tailback. No surprise there. But bigger for a tailback. These women are like 115, 125 pounds, and they've got motors in their heels. And second year I was moved to defense, which is a much better place for me. So I got to play end, and that was so great for the second and third seasons of my football experience. We had a D-line of all Polynesians, mixtures, which is pretty crazy. And then my third year, third and fourth year seasons, I was moved to blitzing outside linebacker, which was so for me. Always causing havoc. So it was great. I really enjoyed it, and the caliber of the athletes. It was an honor to share the field with those women. Really tough women, pushing through injuries and pain, and much like hula dancers, but this is like full contact. This is a lot of serious injuries. And, as Nike kind of funded part of one of the seasons, Sports Illustrated followed us around for a season. I wish I had copies of some of those photos, magical photos, wind blowing in our hair after we take off our helmets. I mean, almost, you can't, replicate that. But it was just such a great experience. I returned from Chicago after being front and center and working very hard to be head hula girl and head choreographer. That when I came home, I'd had my daughter while I was in Chicago, so the body wasn't exactly aesthetically the same from when I first started, and that's just part of being a woman and birthing, life. So I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in my, early 20s now, just breached early 20s, and I've got all this stuff going on. Can I, wear a skirt down to my pubic bone and be in front and center now in a place where Polynesians aren't so scarce? And probably the answer would have been no. We have so many amazing Polynesian dancers, not just Hawaiian, but I mean the Tahitian and the Maori and the Samoan and the Fijian. We have that here. These great halaus that are professional that tour everywhere. And I thought, do you really want to be front and center? And the answer, my inner woman said, no, it's time to go back to the contact. And there was no internet at the time, so I flipped open the Yellow Pages and did a search in Orange County. And I visited a Hapkido school in Westminster, and I went. He was kind, but you could tell he wasn't really ready to. It was all men. He wasn't. It would have been. I would have disrupted everything. And then I found Olohe Solomon Kaihewalu, and I thought, well, that's Hawaiian. So I picked up the phone and I called, and everyone's heard the story, but I'll tell it again. A woman answers, and sounds younger, and I said, hi, my name is Michelle, and I really am interested in learning more about the art, and I'd like to talk to the master. And she said he doesn't teach women, and she hung up. And so I was like, hello? What? Oh no. So, well, was it like this, the rotary? I can't even tell anymore. So it was so long ago. And she answers the phone, and I said, I just called. I don't know what happened, but I'm interested in learning. I'd like to talk to the master about possibly becoming a student and training there. And I've been an athlete my whole life. I've taken martial arts because during Chicago I was training in Taekwondo and a little Hapkido there too, just to keep my stamina up. I was touring, so I mean it was 11 shows in 1 week was my record, and that's exhausting. That's 45 to an hour on stage, so it was helping me keep my cardio up. And I explained this to her, and she said he doesn't teach women, and she hung up. And so I had it at that point. So I called back and I said, I think we got disconnected, but that's okay because I'll just keep calling back. And at that point, I talked a little bit more, rapid fire. She agreed to take my number, and then he called. And when he called, he talked for 20 minutes, and he asked me about my family and, what I'm about, and, digging deeper into the spirit and the soul of who I am, not if I know specific kicks. I think he was already sizing me up to see if I could even endure a class with him. And so after that, he agreed to allow me to come and watch a class. And I did. I showed up in my work attire and a hot little thing in the early 20s and disrupted the class, but they performed perfectly. And, he even said so at the end. And I thought, this is it. This is the real deal. He just closed his last dojo. This was garage training. And about 12 to 15 guys there, not breathing. He walks in a room, they don't breathe. He hits them. He swears. It's old school. This was exactly like my upbringing. And I think I didn't know it at the time, but I didn't know that man would have healed so much of me through my training. So it's more than just physics. It's been life-changing for me. So he brought me in the house and I signed paperwork and I've been training since. The beautiful art of Hawaiian Lua, which is the ancient form, was started out more of a healing art. Olohes, which means hairless one, bare one, also wise one. They were the war strategists for the military, and the kings and rulers listened to them. They weren't just tactical. They looked at the full picture of the culture and what the war would do to the people and the society as a whole. Fast forwarding to Lua and the different styles today, after all the warfare and the genocide of the people in specific parts of the culture, whether the monarchy agreed to it because they were fascinated with the cannons and the different, bayonets and things like that, regardless of whose fault it is. It went underground, and the Olohes then weren't considered necessary. Everything then became about maximum kills. And that is where my Olohe's era is from. So you'll see other Lua arts, who I have much respect for, and I'm getting to know quite deeply these days. It's my honor entirely to have the support of other elders from different Lua arts. It's unimaginable to me. But my Olohe is third generation Olohe. His mother also knew Lua too. She was a royal, an ali'i. And my Olohe is a technician. He's more than just a war strategist. He is, a physician in so many ways, with weight distribution and angles and, cutting and not wasting an animal. Lua is land, sea, and animal, nature-based movement. So, to describe this art, if you think of the ancient kahiko, the hula, and then you turn that into combat and contact and striking, close quarters, that is the lua. Coupled with warriorism, the real way of life, not just mangling maximum kills, killing everyone, no consequences. This art and the culture is connectedness to each and every living thing. I'm not just talking about humans. And knowing that when we, with poor intent, set out or not care and we hurt others, we are ultimately hurting ourselves. So in this warfare and lua, pit, toilet, bearing your waist, your opponent in that deep dark pit in a circular manner, that is lua, that is toilet, that is what Olohe will say over and over again. Use the ground to bust your opponent. A lua duality, light, dark, masculine, feminine. Everything has been so dominantly ku, masculine. And I really feel that, I didn't know in my training that I would be representing the hina in such a strong way. Not to take over the ku, but to match and to complement the duality that all of the scholars and elders speak of in the culture. After that, then laws were written and passed to ban the lua from public display and practice, and so therefore it went underground and was buried in the darkest of night where the warriors would practice, and it went into the hula. And so a lot of hulas take gorgeous, of course, and different from each island. But they don't really know that they're doing techniques that were concealed that is actually Lua. I wish they knew what they were doing instead of it being a competition all the time, which of course we can revel in and appreciate. I mean, all hula dancers have tremendous pain because of the joints and the hours of practice and the life they dedicate. But there's more to it than that. The SHE program stands for Superhero Experience, and it's gimmicky, but it works, taking mere mortal women dressed in their alter ego into their superhero power. And I think that women were not necessarily raised to know how powerful they are, or they don't feel it's okay to be the way that they've been made because of societal pressure or role models that are set before us, and how we're supposed to dress, act, think, respond, not respond. And so this program developed itself. My late life coach actually named it. And it is just to know that we are superheroes internally, whether we're in our alter ego outfit or not. I mean, even Clark Kent needs to change, right? Jennifer, is it Walters? She-Hulk, she needs to change as well, but she already starts becoming. We're that all the time. And I think that, besides learning defense to rape or the crowbar, the hammer, the zip tie defense, the hair grab, the front choke, all of these things that are real life, it's also knowing that they can and they should know that they're worth it. So there's visualizations that I do throughout the program. First is getting their mindset proper to where I have them close their eyes and hold who they love most dearest on this planet. And then I ask them to envision their loved one in a situation where they're being attacked or they're about to be attacked, and they're able to rush in and save them. And this all goes on quietly while they sit there with their eyes closed. And they rescue their loved ones. They pull them out. They're at home, and they're sobbing together, but they're safe. And you can feel the breath kind of leave the room because this becomes very real. And then I ask them to switch the visual of their loved one to their own face, and I ask them to put themselves in the same situation. And we walk through that situation, and the women. It's such an amazing response. Some women, their eyes bolt open, they leave the room. Some, their jaws drop open. Some start rocking. Some start crying. Some lay down and they're quietly sobbing. You can just see their chest going because they realize this double standard of they would never do, and they're not mentally prepared and spiritually prepared to defend themselves like they would who they love, their loved ones. So there's a lot of that goes on. We also go through a little bit of healing and of past events so that they can shed that energy that their body's keeping, so they can move forward freer in this new superhero way of being. Heroes are the people, for me, that keep their word, that genuinely have great intent at all times, not just when people are looking or when they're posting something on social media. The people making a difference in other people's lives around the world in their own magical way, their own gifts and their own talents. There's no way we can be perfect or all the same. And that's the beauty of it. Nature is never the same. It fluctuates. So do the seasons of our life, the people in our lives, and our calling. It kind of chooses us. So those people that are open to that can let things go and not respond in the caveman and cavewoman emotionalism to every little thing, they're my heroes. My purpose right now is completely unfolding. But, Dr. Hawkins would say nothing's unfolding. That's just our awareness catching up with that which already is. And I tend to believe that. Talking to the universe and saying, okay, the universe walks up and you're at, a diner. And Rob can appreciate this. Then waitress, aka universe, walks up and say, what do you have, Michelle, today? What do you feel like having? It's choosing what our purpose is when it presents itself. Those opportunities come, and I don't want to miss a thing. Every day I pray, use me. You've prepared me for this. Everything in my life has brought me to this place. And how amazing is that when I really sit and think about it? And there's so much more work to be done. There's so much more I need to catch on to. And it's not this false humility. It's knowing for a second, if I become this grandiose, oh, it's Michelle Manu, don't you know who I am? This will all be stripped from me. Every single breath of it. All connectivity, all vision. And I just want to continue to be that spokesperson for the people, to bring the fire of the Hina, to match the Ku, to say this is really what our culture has been about the whole time. Regardless of how women and the feminine have been erased, over time, because, scholars come in, they come with a certain perspective that doesn't have value for the feminine. But there is history written. We still have some books. We still have rulers and their names and their islands and their people, what they ruled, how they ruled, gracious, fair, powerful, trusted, abundant, all those things. It's not that women weren't allowed to do certain things and sacrifices. That was the man's job. Women did all the things that men did, and they were revered for it, and they were respected for that. Birthing everything from from the physical or the spiritual into the physical, and likewise, the men didn't interfere. They wanted nothing to do with it. They gave the women their right in their temple, and there was that mutual respect.
How do you want to be remembered?
I'm not really sure how I want to be remembered. Just as I am. I'm not looking for people to say certain things about me. But I do want to be remembered for being focused and intolerant to stuff that is not healthy. To be an advocate for the culture and for women. Just, I don't know. To say, you know what? She was a good person.
If you could go back in time and visit the younger Michelle, and I don't know what younger means, younger might mean at some younger point. You pick that. What would you say?
I think mine is not specific events. It would have been my essence, I would have tried to not be so hard on myself. The predator that I teach about, that voice that comes up. I'm not supposed to know everything. I'm not supposed to be perfect. Allowing people to actually support me without thinking that they're going to want something in return. Not everyone does. And just making those hard decisions without the fear of the response from the other person. A lot of hard decisions made, but I would probably just want to, depends on what it was, whether it was raising my daughter, divorce, working so hard, or my training. I'm glad I didn't quit. The voice said quit, and I'm glad I didn't. I probably would have strengthened her even more. For myself, I would have said, you know what, you're doing okay. Lighten up, breathe a bit. You're a good mom. You were a good wife. You're a good sister. You're a good friend. You can't be everything to everyone. And that you should probably take some time for yourself. I still struggle with that. I would say find the best teacher for you. Schools are different these days. Teachings are different. Even systems have changed from when we all started training. But where a teacher that meets you where you are right now, and to not quit. Dedicate 6 months of your life to see if that's the right thing for you or the right art. To not compare yourself against the person next to you, but use them as a marker. If they're a little bit better, they've been training a little bit longer. Study their movements, mimic them, train harder, smarter, always be safe. It's not about busting someone in the mouth or breaking someone's bones. It really is movement, so we learn more about who we are in every sense, in all of our layers, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And show gratitude, realize we are always a white belt, regardless of our promotions. That we're always learning something all the time from all of those around us, not just our teacher, students. And I think that's what I would have to say. Yeah.
That's what you tell your students now.
Yes.
I want to thank you for coming out, and the interviews that I do are, they're supposedly for you guys and for the museum, but they're really for me because I get so much out of the about learning about people and you making yourself accessible to me and somewhat vulnerable.
Yeah.
I always walk away from every interview that I've done like this, a little bit wiser and a little bit more enlightened. I think a little bit more empowered, and I believe I come out of the interviews being a better person, or at least having the potential to be a better person in some way. But somehow I've been improved, and then that just resonates out in my beingness with people that I encounter. So you honor me by your presence today and by being so straightforward, and I thank you so much for that. And that being said, you're a pal.
Okay. Oh, pal. Thank you.
Well done.